My name is Argo. My studio is called Aesthetic Studio. We're based up in Toronto, Canada. It's great Canadian. And a lot of people have talked to a few of you at this conference and asked me what it is that we do at Aesthetic Studio. What exactly do you do? And I always forget how difficult it is to answer that question until I come to places like this and have to answer it. So I'm going to show you a little bit. So we are a team of creatives. We're also technicians, engineers, and we love to make things. We love to make delightful objects. A lot of us come from a background in art, and a lot of us have kind of stumbled on technology, not only just because we're kind of nerdy and we kind of love it, but because we realize that technology is actually just another material. When you have a creative vision in front of you, technology is just another material in order to how to realize that. And we work with in all different types of arenas. The reason why I'm here is because we do work with museums and science centers. But when we're not doing that, we also work a lot with dance companies, with theater companies, with musicians. We've even worked on education, or essentially, all we try to do is to continually deliver delight and wonder through making objects. Partially because we're just kind of kids at heart, trying to find ways to continue to do that. So, two particular projects that we're talking about today are based on that's us working with a dance company. This is actually a project we were part of for the last 4 years and did a dance performance earlier this year in March. But what I'm here is for robots. So robots, it's a big word not only on stage, but it's a heavily loaded word. When you think of robots, I doubt many of you are thinking about this. I doubt you're thinking about the industrial automation robots, the giant arms that are building cars. Maybe some people listening. And when I say robots, I doubt you're thinking about this. The domesticated robots that are starting to invade our homes. They clean our floors. We already have a bunch of robots in our homes. They do our dishes occasionally. Perhaps they monitor the temperatures in our rooms. They're just machines, and they're running their instructions and doing their best to adapt our environment for us. But when I think about robots, I think about these guys. Yes, just a lot to but for me, when I think about robots, I think about these guys, because these represent to me technology embedded with a soul, a human soul. They're more than just machines. When the technology gets elevated to a certain level where we start to form emotional connections with it. They have personality, they have character, and we fall in love with that character. And this has been something that's been something I've been interested in for a while. I grew up with toys, with gadgets. I didn't necessarily care if they had batteries or not, but I loved small little objects that were quirky, that made me smile. And that's something I've always wanted to continue making. So back in 2004, so these projects are actually kind of almost 10 years apart. In between, I did a bunch of museum stuff, but these two projects that I want to talk about. So back in 2004, I was just graduating NYU, and I got a great opportunity. Me and a couple of colleagues were invited to move to France, to Nice in particular, and to work on a commission for the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art. It's a beautiful campus that it's a part of. And they were coming up on the bicentennial anniversary. And they house projects by the sculptor Jean Tingley, who's familiar with his work. but he's one of the first, most prominent sculptors to use electromechanical pieces in his work. There's motors, there's gears. When you turn it on, it makes a wonderful industrial sound. And so they approached my professor and said, send us 3 students who can work on a cool new robot project. And so in talking with the museum, we were starting to get the sense that what they really wanted was something that would pay tribute to Tingway, some big, large, robotic structure that to create a spectacle, to bring in the guests. But they were open to ideas. And so being into what I was into, I look at something like this and I say, this is lovely, this is fun to appreciate. But with interactive art and through several years of putting interactive art pieces into a museum context, you realize in a museum it's tough to get people to interact. The second that they walk in this door, they kind of condition themselves to just appreciate objects at a distance. To just sit and, that's nice. But when we would put an interactive artwork, we needed people to play with it. That was always a challenge. Maybe you have to put a docent in there to say, no, it's okay to play with it. And so by creating another large, cold, metallic sculpture, wasn't something I was very interested in. What I was more interested in is how can you make technology more warm and fuzzy? How can you make a robot that someone wants to hug? And so I pitched this idea of, instead of making one large robot, let's make a bunch of little robots. Let's make a small litter of robots. And they said, sure, let's go for it. And so knee spots happened. It was an incredible experience for us. It started by us designing up a kit. Now, this being kind of a somewhat post-student driven project, we're quite resource constrained. So, we came up with a kit design, something that worked. We designed all our own circuit boards and assembled all our own circuit boards and used off-the-shelf motors and wheels, minimized the amount of moving parts, the amount of parts that we had to order. We also, just to explain a little bit, you might be able to see it in the robot at the top there. We had 2 sensor eyes, so a left and a right sensor, so they can detect objects. It had a line sensor kind of in the bottom of the body, so if so desired, we could put a little fence to make sure that they wouldn't go beyond that fence. They also had these long noses with a magnet sensor at the tip of the nose and a speaker in the butt so that they could sniff each other's butts and kind of find out who was who. And these are completely autonomous robots, by the way. We also set up an atelier environment. So the pitch was, we're going to take our whole studio and we're going to set up in a special gallery, and we're just going to make robots. And over the course of 30 days, we're going to give birth to these 30 little robots. And over the course of that, we also invite people in to kind of see the tools that we were using, to come and ask us questions. Again, something we really wanted to do was try to, part of trying to soften the image of technology, the image of robots, was to try to demystify the technology, see the parts there, and see what they're made of, and that, hey, we're just a couple of scruffy looking dudes just making this stuff. You can do it too. And it was a great success. Lots and lots of kids would stop by. Over the course of these 30 days, we finished assembling all of our robots in around a week and a half. But we really started to think about refining their personalities, because 30 of the same robots is not incredibly interesting. So we started to give them all their little unique decorations. Each one we gave them a name, and we started to refine their programming. So for instance, in the regular programming, if you come up against an object, so I'm a robot, I hit a wall, I can decide we were going to turn left, and then I'm going to turn right, and then we're going to try and go forward again. If I hit the wall again, I'm going to keep turning until I've avoided that object. So in some instances, we decided to make some robots more timid. So when they would come up, when they encounter an object, they would take a couple steps back and just shake. Just sit there and just be completely nervous, unsure what to do next. And other robots were more aggressive. When they would come up against an object, maybe a priceless sculpture, they would just keep hitting it over and over again for that object to move. And we use these little personality traits in these stories in order to bring together the audience. Again, we were trying to overcome that boundary of, okay, I'm in an art museum, I'm not supposed to touch anything. So we would tell people, hey, if you see a robot shaking in the corner, he's just a little scary. Just pick him up, move him over here, and then he'll continue on their way. And the more and more we started to kind of perpetuate this story about the robots, the more people would interact with them. Parents started bringing their kids. More and more kids would come into the museum. And the more the kids would play with the robots, the parents would play with the robots more. And after years of putting interactive art into stuffy art galleries, here was finally the reaction I always wanted from creating something. You know, people to be having fun, to be playing, to be immersed in the experience. And it was this that really kind of set me off on my trajectory towards doing stuff in museums and science centers. That's the expression we're going for. So, you know, fast forward 8 years, blah, 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 museum, this, do something else here. And we were given an opportunity. We just finished working on the Taos Arc, the new Calgary Science Center. And we were contacted by the Toronto International Film Festival because they do another film festival called TIFF Kids, which is just films for kids, films made by teens. So they wanted to do a companion piece called DigiPlay Space. And the idea behind DigiPlay Space was to introduce kids to interactive art, to cool indie games, to robots, to get them excited about creating with technology. And we thought this was an incredible opportunity. And so we helped them. We had a couple of pieces that we had done for festivals. And so we installed a couple of those and we helped them with some of their planning. But it was there was this idea that I had ever since knee spots, which was, I really wanted to create this cute little adorable robot that you could just put in your pocket, and he could be your little buddy, and he would, make you laugh, and you could play with games with him, and then, thinking about, well, how could we use something like that in order to inspire our kids to be creative with technology? There was a project that I had done in 2006, almost right after these spots, called 9-volt bells. So that was really simple. It was a simple circuit, LED eyes, a speaker mouth, and a switch for a hat. And they were just puppets. You would just tap on the button on top, and they would go, boop, 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 boop. And so you could take 2 of them, and you could have a little conversation. And it was that, they were really fun. People loved making those stories. And there was something really adorable about the look and feel of that I wanted to kind of hang on to. I don't know, has anyone here heard of Argo? I said, yeah, wow, cool. So then you know that a lot of times you can go, cool, there's this thing called Arduino to make electronics accessible to people. I'm going to buy an Arduino. And, oh, here's how you blink an LED. Cool, I'm going to do this. I'm going to wire this up and blink an LED. All right, now you can do anything. And from years of working on games and interactivity, I realized that when people are confronted with anything, it's a really hard place to get engaged. So what if I could take something like this, take the power of the Arduino platform, and constrain it in such a way where we're letting somebody just play in a very simple, limited space first, before they get to the anything part, and then to slowly coax people into playing with electronics and programming. So we started on a couple designs, kind of crude. We wanted to make sure that all the parts were exposed, like so no plastic casing, preventing you from seeing how the thing worked. We wanted to use wood in the design, because it's really boring. It's not what you think of when you think of robots. And we call them the little robot friends. Now, there's something that wasn't exactly quite right about this. We loved this design, but there was still something missing. It still didn't have that appeal, that draw that we knew was going to be important when introducing this to kids and young people. So we attacked it from a character standpoint, similar to how we did with the knee spots. We came up with 3 cute little characters. So this is Spiky, Ghosty, and Kirby. And again, they're all more or less the same. They're all built around the same platform. But each one has its own little unique personality traits. And people, they project their own personalities onto the character. So that helps form an emotional attachment to the object. They have touch-sensitive hair, RGB LED eyes, tons of colors, the speaker mouth. They had a little microphone. Not that it could listen and understand your words, but it could tell when something was loud. They had light sensors, so they could tell when it was light or dark, and actually you can cup your hands over them to play peekaboo if you want. And infrared send and receive, so that multiple robots can all sit together and chat amongst themselves. And then, of course, most important, 100% Argo compatible. So it's something that kind of started off as a cute little toy, but under the hood has a lot of power and a lot of places where it could go. Everything that you would learn when just trying to develop your character, your little robot friend, could then be applied to a different project. Maybe you want to do a plant that tweets when it needs water, or cat ears, read your brainwaves. We launched a Kickstarter in 2013, and within 8 hours, it was the Kickstarter project of the day. Within 30 hours, we reached our target goal, which kind of blew my mind. And that's when we started getting a little nervous. Started being like, okay, do we really want to make $500,000 worth of little robots? What are our margins? Let's look at our models, make sure that we're not going to go broke on this project. In the end, we kind of constrained how many could be ordered, but we still ended up with 3 times our project goal. And so we made 3,000 robots. We used the extra cash to kind of develop a series of tutorials. Rather than telling people that, hey, you're going to be downloading the code and you're going to need to learn how to program, we said, let's just teach your robots some tricks. You want your robots to do the trick. And we made them really accessible things, so turning your little robot friend into a nightlight. So you tap it on its head and it sings a lullaby. Or a birthday candle, so its eyes would flicker kind of like a candle, and then you use the microphone to just blow it out, and then it would say happy birthday to you, which is kind of cute. Also, we were really conscious about kind of our coming up with color scheme. We didn't want to explicitly use down your throats that you're going to be learning electronics, We wanted to try to make it as playful as possible, introducing you to being able to make, play, and eventually code. And so far, the response has been pretty overwhelming. We've done a second run, and we've sold out all of our first production run. We did a second production run, we sold out all of those. And we're actually kind of just in the process of working on a new version. But the thing that actually has kind of touched us the most is that one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we've gotten back from parents and from teachers is how well they say that that not only do little boys like this, but also little girls as well. And that's something that I kind of been thinking about a lot, and especially during this conference. And I think one of the main reasons about that is because rather than approaching an introduction to setting curriculum from something instructional, from the ability to have to shoot a projectile or go get that can from the fridge and bring it to me. Instead, it's all about developing out a personality, developing a character, and creating a story. When I watch my 2-year-old play with his trains, they're talking to each other. He's making up a little story about how But similar to you know, how my friend's daughter, same age, will play with little farm animals, same thing. You know, it's not about performing a task, it's about developing a relationship. And I think that that's universal. It doesn't really matter if you're a boy or a girl or a farm animal. So that's it. That's my talk, and this is how we kind of use robots, especially robots, to try to get people interested in programming.